Hey everyone, Sarah at Nova again. And we're going to do a little bit of just a general shop walk this time around, show you some of the projects we have going on. Before we do that, I want to mention we have our third class of the season in person coming up here on Saturday. We still have 2 slots left for that, I think. That's carburetors, only carburetors. So you can go to our website and check that out. And also a reminder that you can book time with us video chat if you are not local. We can do by the hour, half hour to help you through your project. So check that out too on our website. We start off today with our BSA A65. If you follow us, you know we've done a couple of videos on this. It's a 67 Thunderbolt 650. And I just want to point out, here's the crankshaft here, and we got the head. I'm going to rebuild the head soon, new valve guides, and valves. But I want to point something out about the crank. If you have ever heard people talking about Brit bikes, everybody says, "Oh, did you clean the sludge trap?" And most people who aren't into Brit bikes have no idea what that is. So I want to point out what it is. It lives in here, and there's a little cap on the end of your crank that covers it. And basically, what it is it's a early form of an oil filter. Basically, it's a centrifugal filter, which means it's just a big tube for a bunch of oil to travel down. And as it rotates, centrifugal force throws the solids out to the outside of it. So when you pull this out, you will have solid goo caked on one side. And if you don't clean this out, it'll actually block up the oil passageways that need to go through your crank to oil the bottom end of your motor, the big ends of your motor. So what I want to point out too, if you've never done this before, not only do you have to take out that plug and clean out that passageway, you have to pull this out. This lives in here. And I think a lot of people will not realize that's in there, and they'll scoop out the insides, but they don't get it all out and clean. So you want to take this out, clean out this really, really well so that's really, really clean in there. And then you'll notice here, somebody put this in wrong. It's got a dent here, and the whole thing is bent a little bit. And that's because this whole thing is held in place by one of these flywheel bolts. You see there's other bolts that are holding the flywheel to the crankshaft, but the one that's right in line with the big ends has a little holder in it, and that fits right into there. And this goes in here, and that goes in here. But you have to line it up right, and clearly somebody didn't, and luckily that was the only damage that happened there. But I'm going to replace this just on good, it probably would be fine, but we're already in this far, and I hope we don't have to come down again for another 30 years or so to do that. So I will replace that. So anyway, that's what people are talking about when they're talking about sludge traps. This little guy, you must clean it if you're doing an engine rebuild, and if you're getting this far, you must take this out and make sure everything is good and clean, and that's about it. So cool, that Brit bike there, and then we've got a bunch of the usual suspects in here. Honda V65 Sabre. We should do a video on this at some point. We're gonna store it for the winter for the customer once we're done with it. We basically are done with it. We're finishing up some of the brake stuff. This is an OG muscle bike, V4, crazy power, straight line fun, just a lot of fun. And then Bailey's over here working on a 80s Vespa. This is a PX 125. This one came in here. It had been stored fairly poorly, and actually the whole shifting mechanism, which is in the handlebar, was seized solid. It took us quite a bit of heat and chemical and brute force to break it free. And we've since gone and replaced some cables. And now Bailey is finishing up a clutch safety switch installation because that part did not survive. This one has an electric start, which is why you need the safety switch. So kind of cool thing about the 80s Vespas, they get into e-start, and they're pretty darn easy to start up and run around. A couple little buttoning up pieces on this thing, and it's going to be good to go. Kent is over here working on this XB12R Firebolt, a Buell. We did a video about this one recently too. You can go back and check that. A couple of things I forgot to mention.
Todd had stuff to say about it.
Todd had a lot to say about it. And people in the comment section had a lot to say about Todd's opinions about it too, which is all.
We've all got opinions.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I neglected to mention when we were doing this that this has a chain drive conversion, and that's on me. I get so used to seeing stuff that it slips my mind. But these came with belt drives, like most Harleys, and a lot of people don't like the belts. I will be a defender of the belt. I think they're pretty darn cool.
Todd likes the chain.
But a lot of people go for the chain, and that's fine too. And then this also has this swing arm, which is, I believe, a racing swing arm. Or I don't know if this is factory or if somebody braced that, but this piece of metal is not normally here. So somebody's beefed that up too. So a couple changes that I missed along the way. And then the owner actually pointed out to me that this bike has different wheels than stock. So it's It's not, this one looks unlike any other factory bike out there. He actually thinks it may have been rebuilt from a salvage or something by a Harley dealership, and that's why. But if you go to bikes.com or bikes.net, the one with a Z on it, you will see this particular bike because he submitted a picture of it there. So it's kind of cool. And Kent's finished up putting the
likes the wheels a lot.
yeah, two-tone, a little silver, a little white, and not stock wheels either. Those are pretty cool. Yeah, they are Buell. Yeah, Kent is finishing up putting the intake manifold seals on there. We found we had a leak on the rear cylinder, and a starter rebuild on this, and starter solenoid rebuild, and it should be good to go again soon. Another red and even shinier bike here. This is a Honda Superhawk CB77. I love these bikes. This one has clearly been a little bit over restored, in my opinion. A lot of chrome, even to the point of chroming the aluminum, which just a little word of advice. If you want this look of this extra shiny look, aluminum can be polished to look like that, and it'll last a lot longer. And it will. There's some problems with these cases sealing to the engine cases. The cover is sealing to the cases. Excuse me. It's a big mouthful. So a little bit overzealous on the chroming, but that's what the customer likes. They like the big shiny look. So it's in here to have the forks rebuilt, a little bit of tuning. We found some stuff wrong with it. Nothing major, just a lot of little things. And this will be a very, very shiny, pretty object when it's done. Superhawks are great. The Honda's sort of first big bike, in my opinion, even though it's only 305. These things were able to chase down Triumphs, much bigger Triumphs. So it would easily give a Triumph 500 a run for its money. And in the right hands, the 650s were under threat from these things. And this was followed soon by the Honda 450 Twin, the Black Bomber. This became the CB450, and even those were pretty good, pretty capable machines until the 750 Honda came out, and then it was all over for the other big bike brands. So these were pretty cool. This was the bike that Robert Persig rode across country with his son, and it was then in the art of motorcycle maintenance. So if you think about, we think about bikes being small, the size of bikes these days, this is very small, and two people, he and then I think his 11-year-old son, riding cross country on that. So next time someone says a 600 is not a big bike, tell them about Robert Persig got his 305. And then we have this GPZ, which is actually kind of an interesting project. It's an example of something that was rebuilt but not rebuilt well, and we have to go through and basically we're doing a lot of problem solving, figure out why it's doing what it's doing. It's got strange low compression readings, and it seems like the machine shop that did the work actually got some acid spilled on the bores and did some etching into the bores. Really strange things. So we have been going through this, on and off a little bit. We have a plan for it now, and we'll get it going pretty soon. This is an early fuel injected. This is 81, 82, I think. 83. It's an 84. Okay, everybody other than me knows what year this bike is. So this is an 84. I think they were available in 83, but fuel injected. Here's the throttle bodies. Fuel injected GPZ 1100, which is a very cool bike and moderately rare enough that it's worth saving for sure. And yeah, kind of fun to work on. It needs a long way to go, but the engine's going to be solid by the time we're done with it. And then this is a favorite of mine in the shop, partially because it's an old tool, partially because it helps us build wheels, and that's a really fun skill to have and something we can do in house here. And also because somebody just gave me this stand. They showed up one day and said, "Hey, I got an old wheel building stand. Is that something you want?" And I said, "Yeah, let me see it." And they brought it in, and this is a really nice old Hosen, stand, and I think it was designed for car wheels. So sometimes they have a hard time getting it tight enough in for motorcycle wheels, but for the most part, we can do any of it. It holds it very solid, very steady, and when you're finishing a wheel, you'll break out the dial indicators and stuff like that, but it has these very cool adjusters here where you can, not adjusters, basically these are sight things where you can put this up to the rim. We wouldn't, if we're truing a wheel, we would take the tire off and just have the rim. And you can put this up and you can really use your eye to get it within 20 thou pretty easily, and then get it into, it's nice to build a rim to a 5 thou spec if you can. This one's on here just as a display for the last class we had to talk, show what is made up, what makes up a wheel, and then you can see the bearings in here. So that's why it's still sitting here. But I will be using it soon for this bike. Now, this is a 76, I'll say, CZ. Started out as a 125. This was a bike that I say that it's what's great about it is 90% of the bike is available in the Czech Republic for incredibly inexpensive and 3 week shipping. But the 10% that's not available is unobtainium, virtually unavailable anywhere in the world. So we started this bike, and then we did a bunch of stuff. We had it painted. We were putting the chassis together, and it all goes fairly well. And when it got time to finish, I put the bottom end of the motor together. And when it came time to put a piston in, I couldn't get a 125 piston anywhere, just nowhere. So I figured I would go use a 175 top end, and I couldn't find a 175 cylinder anywhere. So I ended up, after waiting and looking and waiting and looking, I ended up finding this cylinder in Slovakia on a website that I just, basically had faith. I threw money out into the internet with the hope that something would show up, and a month or so later, this thing showed up at our door. So it worked out well, but it's one of many interesting problems this thing has had to get going. Now, to be fair, this bike was very, very rough. To get it apart, we had to use cutting torches. We had to cut things to get the old. We had to cut the crankshaft in half to get it apart. It was so seized, we could not get it apart. So there wasn't a lot to work with, and a lot of the metal has been either replaced or restored in the rest of the bike too. So it's been a slow process, and one that definitely humbled me as far as I figured it would be a relatively simple project, and it turned out to be anything but that. Very close to being done. The last thing I have to do is recenter the wheels. Actually, there need to be an offset. When we built them centered, and they actually need to be offset a little bit. So we'll take them off, take the tires off, put them on here, move the rim over a little bit so it leans over the hub just slightly, and then put it back on. Other than that, I got to do a couple little things on the fender here, and obviously connect the chain. But it is ready to fire up any day now. So once I get it down and rolling again, we'll be riding this thing around.
And they've been looking at the shorts.
Oh yeah, if you've been following the shorts, this is the one that has the. Let me see if I come around this side. The shifter is the kicker, and it's a cool feature of these. So here's your regular shifter, you're up and down in gears, and then if you want to, when you go to kickstart the bike, you push it in, and it becomes the Kickstarter. Ingenious mechanism, and then when you're ready, it pops back. If you take it apart and look at it, it's very cool. Ingenious little mechanism in there. Pretty foolproof. When we posted it on Instagram and on the shorts here on YouTube, some people have commented that in the right combination, you can kick it and then have it kick back and pop into gear and suddenly jump out on you. So maybe keep your hand on the brake when you're doing that. But otherwise, it's very cool, space saving. One less hole in the crankcase, one less place to leak, and just kind of neat. These are so this is a CZ, but it's essentially a Jawa. The CZ diehards say no, that's not really a CZ. I think the Jawa company had bought it at that point. We're missing a screw there too. We'll get done. But the cool thing about them is they're very rugged machines. They're basically meant to be worked on with a screwdriver and a hammer. And you can the front and rear wheels are interchangeable. You can just take them off and flip them around. The center stand holds it up either front or back. So it's sort of like I believe they used versions of I think they used the Jawa 350s in the East German Army. But those they would just basically ride them through the middle of nowhere, and sort of a Jeep of a bike, which is kind of cool. So there's always something charming about every bike. I think this thing kind of has a cool brutal element to it. Very simple, very rugged. I like the angles on the gas tank, and it's going to be pretty when we're done. We're going to put some tank pads on here, and that's about it as far as cosmetics go. So yeah, that's what we're working on this week. Actually, got a matchless engine over there. I'll get into that some other time, but it's always a fun time here at the shop. Yeah, if you're interested in any classes or online instruction, please hit us up. We love to share what we know if we can help you with a project. And if you see anything that jumps out here, jump in the comments. We love hearing the comments, even if it's about Buell and Todd's terrible taste in motorcycles. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.